grateful that you've come on the show today to tell us about this process, because we must tell these stories. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Author and Artist Hour. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tony Lontis, and we're still hoping that my glorious co-host Kes Wickham St George will be joining us shortly. We have had a time swap over between the United States and the rest of the world, so that might be the issue this morning. But welcome back to the show, your weekly Author and Artist Hour. We have another amazing author to introduce you to this morning. But if you're listening live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch or Twitter, Peo is ready and waiting in the background to send you links about anything that we talk about today. And of course, if you want to watch the show in replay, jump on to our YouTube channel, simply Tony Lontis, and you'll also find the replays on Binge Networks USA, Hero Go TV USA, and the Tony TV channel app, available on all Roku, LG and Samsung smart TVs across the planet. This show, of course, is all about highlighting the amazing work that artists and authors do, and today is no different. Before we get on the show, though, I'd like to do our normal welcome to country, and it goes a little bit like this. I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region, that's Gold Coast, Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and broadcast, and pay my respects to the elders past and present, and all Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Now, normally Kaz is with us first up in the morning, and she's an international best-selling author in her own right. She's also an author's mentor, artist, and she provides amazing video book reviews for any of you authors listening out there who want a book review. Kaz does a wonderful job of that. Now, our guest today is the beautiful Kelly Van Nielsen, and Kelly is also a #1 best-selling poet and author of 6 books. Originally from Newcastle-upon-Tyne, now living in Australia, her contemporary poems, short stories, and articles have featured in numerous international publications, and she is a prominent media figure, regularly appearing on radio and TV discussing current issues prevalent in society. Her poetic Tedx talk, titled Abandoned Superwoman on Kryptonite, attracted over 100,000 views and explores how to manage the competing priorities and convergence of work, family and creativity to live an authentic life. She is represented by the Newman Agency. Graffiti Lane, her powerful debut poetry collection, showcased on the London Book Fair and became an instant bestseller, raising awareness, and here comes Kez, and influencing change around bullying, domestic violence, mental health and suicide. Her second poetry book, Punch and Judy, is a #1 bestseller, shining the spotlight on turbulent love and domestic violence, and her third bestseller, Retrospective, delves into the underbelly of urban life and the power of resilience. Her books are frequently gifted to television celebrities, music icons, and Hollywood Oscar nominees and winners. She is also the author of Rolling in the Mud, a short story collection, and her first fiction novel, The Pinstripe Prisoner, and it's due for publication in 2022. I'm going to ask Kelly a little bit about that later. Kelly is a recipient of the KSP First Edition Fellowship as an Oz Mumpreneur, Big Idea Changing the World Gold Award winner for her creative use of the literary word as an anti-bullying advocate, and a double Raw Success Award winner for Best Book, Graffiti Lane, and Most Powerful Influencer. She is also a 2020 Telstra Businesswoman Award finalist and CEO Magazine Managing Director of the Year finalist. What an incredible pleasure we have to have Kelly on the show. She's also a mum of 2 children, the wife of a soulmate of more than 2 decades, and managing director on an executive board of a global organisation. In her spare time, she has, or doesn't have, which the case might be, you can find her hanging out at an open mic performing her poetry. In short, she is a juggler. One of her favourite quotes is from Maya Angelou, and it is, "If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." And today we want to welcome Kelly to the show. We are delighted to have you here today. Kez, I'm so delighted to see you as well. We were a little worried about you, concerned about something drastic happening behind the scenes. So glad you can join us. I've done enough talking for the start of the show. If you're ready to take over, Kez, I'm going to let you answer. Let you ask our first question of the gorgeous Kelly Van Nielsen. Over to you, Kez.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning. It's fantastic to be here.
I bet it is.
I'm going to enjoy this chat, I know it.
You're looking well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling relaxed. I am in a new part of Australia in the last week in Adelaide, believe it or not, after a few years in Sydney. So I'm always on the move. So yeah, another new surroundings.
Do you travel a lot with your job?
Lots. Yeah, pretty much every week. It's back again now since sort of COVID is not easing, but we are learning to live in the new, in the new world. But traveling lots.
I used to travel with my husband on his job, and I adored it. You never knew when he was going to come home and say, "Pack your case for off." It was just so exciting. I loved it.
Exactly. Yeah. All those airline flights, you can use them for writing windows. That's the way I look at it. You can turn yourself offline and no one worries.
Yes.
So
works.
You immigrated from another journey, and you immigrated from the UK to Australia. How long ago, Kelly?
When I was 18, I left Newcastle-upon-Tyne and I started moving around. Then I got a one-way ticket to London, and then did a few years in London. Then I was Cape Town for a few years, Edinburgh for a few years, Perth, as you know, cares on the ground in WA for 8 or so years, Sydney for 3 years, and now Adelaide. So I have always been on the move, lived on 3 continents, and I quite enjoy it. It's diversity of life and experience, and gives you lots of writing material, put it that way. So I always take the opportunity, and so do the family. I'm pretty lucky like that. The family enjoy adventure as well. So
I didn't have that pleasure with children. My children were all married and left home when I started to travel, and I don't know whether it was easier or not. I have no idea. I didn't really figure that one out. But anyway, back to you. Did you find that did you become homesick for home?
I would say no, believe it or not. So not homesick, as in wanting to go back or anything. I intentionally left. It was really challenging as a child at home, quite a broken family, and also incredibly challenging at school. And I wanted to get out. And make it sort of carve a different pathway and create different opportunities that were not sort of what were necessarily the status quo of staying there. So I did want to leave, and I've not wanted to return. But so I would say not so much homesickness, but I have a deep love for urban life, which comes from being raised on in a working class background, council estate, underprivileged, upbringing. I have a real eye for urban living and for the beauty of urban life, I guess, and that comes a lot into the writing, especially around socioeconomics as well. I write a lot about socioeconomics. So it's less homesick. It's more that it deeply influences how I think, what I do, the DNA that you bring forward with you in life, and that shapes you more that than actual homesickness. I don't know if I'd ever want to return to live in Newcastle. I do go back though. I've got family there, but I wouldn't want to move back.
Of course. Yeah. So you would say that helped generate your poetry the way you felt about, because I mean, obviously where you lived, and we have talked privately. So where you lived, it was domestic, a lot of domestic violence, burglary, violence throughout the community, and it's come out in your poetry, hasn't it?
Yeah. It definitely has. That upbringing. I lived in one of the area that I lived in. It was in the 5% lowest sort of areas in the UK for depravity, I guess, or unemployment issues, low income families. And it was pretty turbulent. All of those things you mentioned, as well, and substance abuse and crime on the streets. And you learn to be super tough. I learned resilience at an incredibly young age, and I think it's my superpower, actually, this deep resilience that's foundational from childhood. You just learn to navigate those backgrounds, and it's what your environment is. So definitely it influences my writing, and I have a real purpose for trying to help youths, especially often girls in high schools and things, who are either troubled, at-risk youths, or youths struggling to overcome, obstacles, on finding their confidence, embracing their passions, and finding ways to navigate and, find pathways that are tangible to achieving their dreams. So a lot of what I do, it stems from childhood, but it's a purpose that I now have in the writing that I bring to the table, I think.
It comes out in your poetry. Tony.
Kelly, in talking about upbringing and childhood, childhood has such a capacity to shape the way that we think about the world until a point in time where we're able to walk through some of the trauma and stuff that's involved from childhood. And I actually think that humanity has a capacity to change some of these big issues. So I'm talking about bullying and domestic violence. And some of that is just around education, just saying there's a different way of doing things, because for most of what you're describing, that's generational trauma. It's a generation of living and not knowing any better. So there's no capacity unless they're taken out of that environment, or additional education is introduced into that environment that causes them to think outside themselves. So and that's not a criticism, but we could solve that by starting at that point and making sure children are aware that this is not actually normal, that it is abnormal, and here's what you do to manage it, here's what you can do to help yourself get out of that trauma and generational cycle. Did you find that you had to do that too, Kelly?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're 100% right there, Tony. I think the backgrounds that we have, you carry a lot of that into your adulthood. And that's the reality for everyone. We come with a bias that's ingrained from, your upbringing, and recognizing what those things are and what what is and isn't right to challenge in your own thinking and in the thinking of others is really important. So for me, I have a lot of hang-ups from childhood, and the poetry started with healing, healing some of those things and finding ways to channel that energy into writing. And it started off as a internal process coming out onto the page.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then gradually I started to use it to influence others, and your one voice gets a broader spectrum and an audience and gets some ripple effect and amplification. And now I use that at grassroots level to really try and engage with youths and kids at a young age, as you say, to try and influence and then hopefully reshape the thinking patterns for the future. I love that space. I love what writing can do to help youths.
Yeah. Do you remember the first conscious moment where it occurred to you that your childhood and the way that you'd grown up was dysfunctional? And the reason I ask is because it took me until my 40s or 50s to recognize the dysfunctional elements of family life. And so I'm always curious of when that happens for others. Kez and I have had similar conversations, but when did it happen for you?
Yeah, I think probably twofold. The very first time I really recognized I wanted something else. I didn't want that to be my limitations of life, and accept that was my future status quo. I was probably about 13. I stated outwardly I wanted to be a writer. I developed aspirations to leave home. I actually left school at 16 and £90 in my pocket, got a one-way ticket to London. I'm very, very young.
Wow.
So I knew early I wanted something else. And if I stayed at home and in that environment, it was not probably going to be a great pathway. But I was only probably in my 30s that I deeply recognized I had carried a lot of unhealthy traits, a lot of baggage, a lot of internalized issues. And I realized and started to address some of those things personally in a different way. So two different scenarios, I would say.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of your writing. As I've read it, I can actually, it's very powerful. It's very demanding. I found your drew me in. I could feel your emotion. I mean, almost from the same background as you, but I'm a lot older. So it was what it was. It was accepted. I came from in New Zealand. And I found your words drawing me in. And literally I was going, I feel the same way. It was like, you were like cheering on the woman of my age group that have been through this and thought, where do we go from here? Because if you suddenly don't have that light bulb moment as a younger person, you do get swallowed, and you become the wife, the mother. You're also a daughter, a sister, an auntie, a grandchild, but you get swallowed into that life, and I see it still going on around me. So I actually advise people to read some of your poetry, so it enlightens them, it makes them think, I don't have to be like this, I can do something different. What your poetry does is it made my heart beat a little faster, and I don't mean in a romantic way. What I mean is very powerful. Your words made me think I'm also a different person now to when I left home at 17 and wandered around with my hands in my pocket thinking, what do I want to do now? So I found your words hit home.
I think that's the beauty of writing. I definitely don't sugarcoat my words. I write raw and gritty with no filter at all. I call it as it is. But one of the things I always try and do is, as you say, Kez, try and showcase that you have the power completely within yourself to make choices, no matter what your obstacles are, whether it be whatever the upbringing is. It's still within yourself to make some calls and take some risks and make some decisions for yourself. And that's where the fork in life comes, from childhood to adulthood of what some things you can't control in childhood, but when you get to become an adult you can. So I try and show there are different pathways, and completely it's in your control to shape your destiny. I'm a big believer you create your own luck, and you can achieve your dreams if you take small steps and have ways to get to the big dream and go for it. And I'm a real positive thinker, and I try and definitely get that momentum with the writing to help others to see.
I also that some of your poetry, it's not just about home life, is it? It's about workplace bullying. I read that 2 or 3 of your poems. It's definitely, and so you broach the whole panoramic view of bullying, not just in the home but in the workplace. And there was, I actually forget the name of the poem, but it actually brought back to me that we can actually bully ourselves, which I found very interesting. We literally go into a place where we think, I am not good enough. And I guess, when, as you've done, we've all traveled that footpath and thought, why are we beating up on ourselves? And your poetry addresses that.
I mean, I've worked 27 years in the corporate life full time in the day, and I write into the early hours in a different sort of sphere. But in business, one of the things I see enormously is that we are prone to holding our own selves back. We get in our own way. We've got our own hang-ups, and we carry all of these sort of concerns around and I've got it. It's, the old imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? And, do I deserve this seat? And do I have the skills for this? And actually, I think we clip our own wings in the most part, more than other people clip, hold us back. So I coach, especially women in leadership, on this around how do you learn to only you can spread your wings and fly, is a phrase I use a lot in coaching to say you can spread your wings and soar, you can clip your own wings and hold yourself back. So look internally at yourself and be mindful about your own reservations and walls that you're building, because in the most part it's inside your own thinking and frame, and you've got the power to change it. So it starts there. I do write about it a lot, and I do write about and I've seen some of the negativity side of things in corporate life as well. It's not always perfect, and calling out behavior and speaking out in the corporate world, it can be hard, but it's needed. So I do write about that too.
You're the right person.
Staying on that subject, Kelly, I'm reminded of my own incidents of bullying in corporate life and how difficult that was to navigate. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, firstly, do you think that we're getting more awareness and that it might just actually be happening less, and that we feel like we can call it out? And then on the other side of that, I read in the early hours of this morning about the fact that Grace Tame has recently been hospitalised because of the trolling and the bullying that she's receiving online. So two components to that. I'm hoping that the corporate and what you see in corporate life is changing, but then we need to step up and do further in the online life, because wonderful women who are courageous enough to step up and take a public persona and a public stance on certain are still copping vitriol. That is not okay. So can you share with us some of your thoughts around that, Kelly? Because I know it's a passion of yours.
Yeah, if I look at the business world, I think when we haven't matured to the point that we have stamped out bad behavior and inappropriate behavior, whether it be bullying or sexual harassment or just inappropriate behavior in the workplace. I don't think we've stamped it out. I think what we have done is built up momentum around speaking out more around what is and isn't acceptable, and corporations now are finding more social responsibility is needed if they're going to attract and retain a workforce, and workers are not going to stand for it as much in the wider domain. So I think we're in this sort of period now. Over the last couple of years, actually, there's been real momentum around different movements. So I think now there's more activity around speaking out about what is an okay work environment, what's a safe environment, what is not acceptable moving forward. And the more that's a journey. I don't think it's an overnight sensation. It's still happening. I've seen it happen, and I'm sure what you mentioned about grace. There's often no winners when you do speak up, but it's important that we do if we're going to change the future for the next generation. There's some work to be done. So we're in this better window. We're addressing things more, but have we stamped it out the behaviour? I don't believe so yet.
Yeah. Kez?
I found when I was working in the corporate world myself that going home was my rock place. And I've got a lovely man and I had a lovely family. They've all left home now. I guess they're still a lovely family, but they were living at home with me then. And I found that their empathy for my situation, because I was teaching the unemployed and homeless, which was the hardest job I found. It broke my heart. It just broke me in two, knowing that I had a nice home, healthy kids, lovely family, great husband, and they were going home to either a beating, alcoholic abuse. It didn't matter what sort of abuse you could call it. They went home to it. And it really it shattered me. And after 2 years, I had to leave. I couldn't take it anymore, because I just knew it was prevalent out there in the big cities. It wasn't so much in suburbia, but right inside the cities. And I found that home was my rock to hide behind. How do you find when you leave? And I know you've got two beautiful boys. So first of all, are they creative like mum? And how do you feel when you know that you are going home? You can leave it all behind and just go home.
Yeah, I absolutely keep my family time as sacred as I can, and I'm getting better at that over the last few years, actually, at carving it out and being brutal with my time and diary, and more selective about what I can and can't. Attempt to carve out sacred quality time with them where I can be present and spend the important time rebonding as a family, especially when you travel a lot, and we're a crazy busy family. So I value the time, and I try and really make the most of the time that I do have with them. Definitely getting prescriptive on the diary front. It's amazing. Time management is incredibly important. My kids are my son, my oldest son, he's studying a double major in film and in English. He's had work published as well, writing, and he writes a lot around dystopian life and also society, creating his own sort of spotlight on change. And he has a lot of deep values around, society and what's right and wrong. So and he films a lot of my poetry and turns it into short movies, and we do lots of fringe and festivals together. And so he's on his own path, and he's more talented than me. He's got hopefully a really bright future. My second youngest is a girl. She's turning 17 this year. She's not so creative. She's an academic whiz. She's a straight A's, and she wants to be a medical scientist or something to do with medical science. So she's in the STEM space and embracing a different type of career, but they're both really good, really amazing. My biggest critics. They read everything that I do before anyone else. And they my daughter loves Kez, you might have seen this, with every book I create a new image. So I have a lot of fun with creating this look that's in line with the books. The last book was called Retrospective, and it was in the 80s, and I was doing all these 80s looks in the book promo stuff and having loads of fun. My daughter works with me on that, and she is behind probably getting, helped me obtain this really amazing youth following that is in the different spheres of social media that I would never have I would have never have got that following without the kids' help. So she got me into the social media space in a good way.
Oh, fabulous. That's wonderful. It's nice to know that family are involved. I mean, I have a daughter that reads my work, and I cringe when she went, we have a few issues, Mum. And I was like, oh no, because she's my harshest critic. My husband just is very nice, but my daughter, she just about I can feel it tearing strips off me as we talk about the book. So I do understand.
Kez, my husband has read he hasn't even read a single piece of my work. He's listened to a couple of if I've done a slam poem. He doesn't read anything at all. I could be writing anything about him. He wouldn't have the foggiest idea. He's also not on social media. So every now and then he goes, oh, I'm going to Google Mom. And then he'll go, oh, okay. So she was on TV the other day. He wouldn't even know, which is beautiful. He keeps me very grounded. He doesn't have a care about this stuff at all. But he's also supportive. If I say, hey, I'm disappearing to Wales for a week on a writer's retreat, you go, okay, no worries. Put it in the diary and make sure he's available with the kids. But so he's super supportive, but he doesn't read any of my work. It's a weird but such is life.
I have a husband the same. He is on no social media platforms, has no knowledge or understanding about social media whatsoever, never wants to have any sort of social media stuff at all. So, and that does the same thing for me, Kelly. Not that I'm likely to ever think more of myself than I am, but he does keep me balanced and does bring
grounded.
Balance and grounding to me as well, which is a good balance when you're in this space, this public space, and speaking about such at times controversial issues. I know one of your other platforms is around mental health, and of course mental health and its management is a passion of mine, because I left the management of my own mental health until I had a major breakdown and almost, lost myself effectively. So the fact that we're actually having this conversation now, and the ability to have these conversations openly and authentically about mental health, its issues, the way that you balance, etc., and helping young people in particular understand this is that quiet voice in your mind that says you're not good enough. It's actually not telling you the truth, and it's just a thought, and you have the power to change that. You have the power to swap that around. And gosh, I wish that I'd had that information as a 15-year-old. And then as a nurse, nursing was the point where I decided that I was never going to allow anyone to know that I had a mental health struggle and was likely to have a mental health diagnosis. I was never talk about it. I would never acknowledge it. But we find ourselves in this space and day and age where we can talk about it a little bit better and with a little bit more authenticity. And it's so important that we talk to the young people about this so they don't get to our age and have had such a struggle. Kelly, what's your experience in the mental health space as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think life's pressures, if you look at today's environment, it's we've always had life's pressures, but today there's different ones. We've got, again, wars going on, we've got pandemic, we've got different scenarios. So what that creates is uncertainty, and it creates different pressures at home, at work, sometimes without work, actually, when it's, impacting there. So it's back to the, if I could go back and talk to my sort of 13-year-old self or something, I would be saying, really be kind to yourself and look after yourself first, because, you're always watching everyone else's pressures are building up, and they're really visible now more than ever on social media and in different platforms. But I think if you can try and carve out more time for yourself to cut yourself some slack, know that you've got, those strengths to leverage, and not to worry about the weaknesses, not to try and worry about the whole big picture, and focus on the positives. I think it's channeling the energy. You can get caught up in too much negative stuff and not think about the positives. So I was probably, I think, 16 where I made the decision, I'm going to pull myself out of some of these circles because I'm spiraling and it's not healthy, and I was going into a bad place. So it was quite conscious at 16, say, I need to move out of this environment and circle, and that's what I did. But not everyone can necessarily firstly see it and then have the courage to kind of take the steps. Right. So helping people to just unpick negativity versus positive thinking is probably the first step. But yeah, it's really tough out there. I think it's a tough environment. So we've got to celebrate the good things in life more, and be more celebrate gratitude and joy where we can.
And Kelly, that whole idea around self-love, another piece of work that would have been invaluable to even know and understand in my late teens, to understand that humans are unique and that you need to love yourself first before you can give to everyone else. And again, it was decades before I figured that out, and figured out that you need to put boundaries. It's okay to protect yourself first. It's okay to have boundaries around your time, your energy, your space, and what you need to survive as a human. Because the unique human that you are, you've been given things that you can cope with and can't cope with, and part of that is figuring that out. And if we were to have those conversations earlier in life, at the beginning of the teenage years, 12, 13 even, to say, this is what you'll experience, this is what will happen, this is actually normal, this is part of, but you have control. You can do things in a different way. You can take yourself out of stressful situations. You can remove yourself from a group of friends that might not be going in a direction that you like. And I'm really glad that we're having those conversations now. And I hope that we continue to have them throughout the rest of the decades that are to come. Kelly, do you see, so you have young people in your life, do you think they're much more open to talking about mental health and the different mental health diagnoses and what they look like? Do you think that they're more comfortable in that space?
Yeah, I definitely think there's more conversation going on and more support mechanisms, for example, in schools and in different networks now. That's probably more widely available than when we were young, and that's a good thing. And kids are being encouraged to speak out more, not just on an Are You OK day, but ongoing. And I also think kids are building different kinds of value sets. They're speaking up more about about Earth and about the planet, about climate and about right and wrong, and learning their own set of values and actually being more vocal about them. Again, that's more prevalent because social media builds up momentum in that space too. But I definitely think conversations are becoming bigger, more global. We live in a more global world now. So, you know, what was your conversation as when I was young? It was only in your circle. You never, you know, expanded out of your circle. Now your circle is global. You've got global networks. So I think that that's getting momentum now around, you know, big topics that matter to individuals. I love what you said about uniqueness as well. It's another one that I speak about a lot. I write about a lot around not conforming to the norm. You know, and actually we're unique for a reason. And I spent half my childhood trying to, you know, fit in. It's a gift, and we have unique gifts. So learning what your gifts are and allowing yourself like the, you know, the time to invest in yourself. You can do it with humility, and you can balance it with caring for others. But like encouraging people to invest in themselves and embrace uniqueness is a big one for youths.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they grasp that concept as they start to grow and mature in that adolescence phase, imagine what we can accomplish as humanity if we have these young people that are engaged and understand their own boundaries, their own uniqueness, how to look after themselves, how to deal with bullying, and imagine what humanity will be like in the future if that's fundamental learning in that space and happens for all teenagers across the planet. That's a wonderful world to look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're definitely getting better over time. Is it perfect? No, but we're getting better and recognizing more and more, you know, where we can make a difference and do things a little bit better.
Sorry, I was just going to say that the thing is that things like bullying and abuse, they can take away a human being's uniqueness and cause you to doubt why you're here on this planet. And we don't want that to happen, because within that cohort of young people are amazing discoveries, from medicine to tech to writing to creativity, and you don't want to stop those young people from developing to their full potential, because it's about potential of the next generation and what they'll do and create and have and be, and that's phenomenal, isn't it? Sorry, Kez, I'm talking too much today.
It's good. It's a good conversation.
I think I'm in a better position than both you ladies. I have grandchildren, and my grandchildren are, well, the youngest is in his 20s, and talking to them and remembering how I related to my grandparents, totally different, absolutely different. My grandparents, all they wanted was I grew up to be a good girl. That's all they wanted. I was going to be a good girl. Talking to my grandchildren, it's like, what are you going to do with your life? You can do this, this, and this. Where my grandson, my youngest one, said to me, I'll go live on Mars with Elon Musk. And I went, what? That's, so different conversations, but also what the woman like yourself, Kelly, and like Tony and myself, we're all doing is we're raising the bar so the children can realize they can do this. They can do anything they want. You can be anything you want. You know, it was from remembering that I was in this little hub of a very large Irish family, Irish Jewish family, and all they wanted was me to be a very good little girl, to having that conversation with my son is that he wanted to help colonize Mars. If I'd have said that to my grandparents, they would have fallen off their chairs. They would have gone, where's your brain? But I agreed with him. I said, well, Sad, I agree with you. I would love to be there. He says, you'll make it, Nana. And I went, I don't know about that. It's quite a way off. It's 40, 50 years off, but I think you'll do it. Or maybe my great-grandchildren will do it. Again, the whole conversation, Kelly, it dived into the fact that he does have a mental health issue. He's been badly bullied, badly bullied, because he came from a single mum family. Even though he had my hubby and I to come to after school and to look after him, it was a stigma in his school. And just seeing that change in him, that now he has left the school, he is employed, he has got a career, And that's his outlook. I want to go live with, I thought, wow, all our family training sort of went out the window. He's trained himself not to be bullied, not to listen to the nonsense that goes on in the world. And you're part of that workload that goes into his mind. So well done. He hasn't read your books, but you're part of your generation is leading them to say, you don't have to do this. Whereas my generation thought, oh, well, I'll just sit here and get bullied. That's how we thought.
True. That was the same when I was a kid, exactly, because you didn't have anyone to talk to or share. In fact, if you did, it would be 50 times worse. So that was not an avenue that you would have taken. So you learned coping mechanisms, your own self, and whatever they were what you built your own self. So I think definitely changing awareness is a big step. And I think this generation, as you say, we've done that for the future. So the conversation with grandkids or my grandparents, it was a bit like you. It was what's right and wrong. Don't steal. Don't do crime, and be a good girl as well.
Just be good. And get married and have many children. That was it.
That's right. Yeah.
now
it's a new era.
It's so different these days. It's so very and it's all for the good. It is all for the good. But it's women standing up and trying to get through that, as we call it, the glass ceiling. That we're training our young ones.
Exactly.
I just think I think I look back and I think, wow, how people of the younger age don't see it, but I do. I actually see the difference. There is help out there. If you have a mental health issue, there is definitely help out there. Abuse and violence has no place in a family home. There is help out there. And this is where I find your poetry goes. It excites me. It excites me to read that your poetry is actually the words are couched, they're hidden, but don't put up with it. Don't stand there and put up with it. Get out of there. And that's what I love about your poetry.
I definitely try and show there are other pathways that you can take to try and get yourself out of a situation and build up courage. If you are in a situation and you can't leave, how do you find coping mechanisms and all those things? So trying to empower people to again make your decisions and own them and not feel things are being done to you that you have to take.
Kelly, I wanted to go back to that whole concept of Superwoman, in that, your books are on global platforms, you're a podcaster, a mum of two, you work full time, and I know exactly how hard it is to juggle all of those things. How do you do it?
Again, probably for many years, I was a huge insomniac until probably I would say 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years, a huge sort of, I would sleep 3 or 4 hours a night on many, many nights. And that's not really sustainable. It's not a great lifelong plan. I made a conscious, and I was doing that because I was living, I would say, 3 different lives. I had the corporate world, which was a long day. It wasn't a 9 till 5 by any means. And then I had the creative world, and I was sort of writing every day. It's like breathing. I want to sit down and write something before bed or whatever that might be. And then I have the family, a husband who, flies in and out for work as well, and 2 kids and whatever. So I was juggling these 3 lives, and they weren't really intertwined. I was intentionally keeping the corporate side separate from my creative side. And I got coached on it in business. I was really lucky. I had a business coach, and also my publisher helped me a bit with this. And I started to break down those self-created silo worlds and become one whole authentic self, to say I'm a writer, I'm a mum, and I'm a corporate businesswoman, and I'm the same one whole person. So I started bringing my kids into work. I started speaking about my writing publicly, which was really uncomfortable for a while around here. I'm also a slam poet, and I'm also I'm in these political circles and business circles, yet in my spare time I'm out of Bankstown doing activist slam poetry. So I started coming out of my shell a bit more around the whole self. And that actually created, believe it or not, more time efficiency, because I was able to just do more. I could start talking about writing at work. I could talk about the same topics in the different circles. And I embraced what that felt like about just being your true, whole, or authentic self, and bringing that to the table, and not, breaking down these sort of siloed different worlds. So it was conscious. I was coached on it actually, but it's where the TED talk comes from, Abandoned Superwoman on Krypton. I was trying to be Superwoman in these 3 different worlds, and now I'm one person, and I embrace the flaws. No one's perfect, and we shouldn't try to be. And I feel that I'm in a better place for it. It's not so overwhelming. I have more wellness balance. I'm fitter, healthier, mentally, physically. And I feel that I'm being a lot more true to myself than I was until that point. But it was really conscious. I knew I was living these 3 crazy lives, and all of them having their own respective demands, and it was not sustainable. I sleep better now as well. Like the whole wellness thing got better when I said, I'm going to stop being these 3 different people, and I'm just going to be one, and people will like it or leave it. And I got to a different place.
So before you were sleeping like 3 hours a night. Now how much do you sleep?
Yeah, I'm probably 6, sometimes 7 actually. I'm pretty much 6, which is, I think, is healthy.
Good.
Yeah, 7, not usually more than 7. That would be a marathon, but not like I was before. So I feel honestly so much wellness now of this, in sync with myself a lot more, and a bit kinder to myself. All those things we sort of talked about earlier around wellness and around putting my time onto the right things, and not trying to, I was trying to do everything for everyone. It's the Superwoman thing. Someone I was asking for something, yes, I'll attend. I was sometimes doing 5 events in a day. Kez will know this. I was attending all these online events and live events, and I was being booked in for everything, and I was eventually again, who are you trying to it was a bit conscious. It was a lot on top of the day job and everything. So now I invest more time with the family and with the wellness piece, and balance it, and don't give myself too hard a time about it. But very conscious. I was very conscious about it.
What would be your wellness program, Kelly? Would it be like diet, exercise, and self-love?
I definitely don't diet. I love food and I love wine, so never going to be and I've never once tried a fad diet. I just don't see the appeal in sort of the starving myself for 3 days and then binging.
I mean good food.
Good food. My it's kind of a regime now. I walk every morning. If I'm in Sydney with the family with the dog, if I'm here in Adelaide, I get up and walk early before work, and that sets the day off well, and I feel I've got some fresh air and exercise. I try and do corporate one-to-ones if I'm having a one-to-one meeting walking, and I encourage the team to say, hey, are you okay if I walk? If there's a bit of background noise, no one cares, people welcome it, and it encourages balance in the workplace. So especially when we're on screen a lot, so I've brought that in the last year or two. I cut out a lot of the carb binging that I was doing at night because I wasn't sleeping late, and now if I do snack late at night, then that's a bit healthier for sure. And I very carefully over a period of time adjusted and introduced more sleep, but in the large part, and then the other thing I've done, this is a different one. So I now use the voice recording app on my phone to record poetry to myself. I look like Shirley Valentine talking to myself, but actually I record as I'm walking. So there's a one. So I'm going for my morning walk and I'm talking to myself on the phone, generally recording snippet lines of like one-liners that I can morph into a poem. Instead of sitting down for 3 hours and trying to carve out some creative work.
Kez and I had like that same conversation last week with with our little recorders, because busy women, you've got to do things on the run. My husband hates the word multitasking, but we as women are actually built to multitask somewhat. It's so true. It's kind of normal for us, and so I've taken to saying to him, well, I know you can't multitask, but I can do this, because that's the way I am, and I appreciate that you can't, and you have to do one thing at a time, and I can only tell you one thing at a time because you won't take it in. And recognizing that has actually helped me juggle a bit better, funnily enough.
Yeah, it's true. I love now walking the dog and having a corporate conversation with the boss or whatever, and people adapt here and think, this is the new hybrid living we live, a world and of blending technology,
good.
and
it's a good thing.
Yeah, there's some good things that are coming out of this new way of working, and so I've definitely adjusted. My daily walk is sacred. It's another thing, like the family time that I do have, it's a sacred one. I try to protect it and say I have to have a walk, otherwise I feel pent up, a pent up day, kind of there. So and that's a recognition thing as well. If I've had a really big day, how do I let off steam before I try and go to bed? Otherwise I'm going to have an insomniac night. So I try and do something to break it up a bit.
Fabulous.
Wellness.
So Kelly, it's all right, I'll get it right.
That's awesome.
The next book, Kelly. When's the next book coming? Now, how many have you got out now?
6 published, and this will be book 7. So it's coming. It's a novel, so it's my first. The 6 other books have been poetry and short story fiction. This is my first full-length novel. It's called The Pinstripe Prisoner, and it was penned.
Name.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this has been a work in progress forever. It's been many years in the making from when I lived in Cape Town, and I actually got taken into a prison as part of research, and it stemmed around prison reform and trying to also bring different perspectives onto why people might end up in prison, and it's not just because you were a bad person.
Correct.
And it's about mental health, so it's around it's a bit of a coming of age story around an incident that land somebody in a tricky situation, and then the spiraling that then occurs and the mental health impact that causes. Set in Edinburgh, where I lived for many years, set in Cape Town, where I lived for many years.
Edinburgh.
Beautiful setting.
It's a great writing city, isn't it, Kelly?
It is, the shadows of the castle and all that come into play a lot, and the synergies with some mental health concerns.
You're going to Love Island, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh yes. I'm gonna love
You're
Island.
both going to Love Island. You're both going.
I'm gonna love it.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh,
you're living in a castle.
Yeah, this is it. This is one of the husband support. I said I'm off to Ireland for a writers' retreat this year. I did Wales a couple of years ago. He went, okay, see ya.
Nice. Yeah.
So he's pretty good.
Yeah. Talking about using a dictaphone, I had to wait a couple of hours for my husband yesterday, and I was sitting inside this building. It was very, very bare. So I started recording one of my new books, and the looks I got was she was saying she's talking to herself. So I just, I would smile and nod, but people were looking, and I thought, I really had to stop this feeling of I'm not going to do this in public, because it was. I was bored. So I was just sitting and it was building up inside me. So I started using my phone. Oh dear.
Because I tried this app as well on the same thing, different from the voice recording. I tried an app which you can record your vocal, and then it converts it to text. And I thought, isn't this a great way to not have to type it out there? And it could not make any sense of my accent. So it was about 5% accurate. And I said, okay, whoever programmed, this sort of Siri behind this app, it just didn't have northern accent in the portfolio. So anyway, I quit pretty quickly. So I only use it to capture what I'm saying, and then I still type it in.
Okay.
So if someone's listening out there, there's a million to be made on putting a Geordie accent into these writing programs.
Because I was just going to say, it's such a lovely accent. Like, what is wrong with the app that it doesn't?
Didn't like it at all. Didn't like it.
Yeah. I get that. So who's publishing your next book?
It's coming out through Lasaris, which is an imprint of Serenity Press, and really excited. They are in the literary space, and it's interesting because people go, "Oh, you write in different genres." I write poetry. I write loads and loads of non-fiction articles for for media and for magazines and for white papers and so on in the business world. In the non-fiction space, and then I've got this novel coming out, and then I go, but it's always about socioeconomics and social impact and
messages,
current demographics and problems in society and urban life and daily challenges. even though they're different sort of forms, I write about the same sort of topics.
You do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Lovely ladies, we have less than a minute to go, and I want to make sure that the audience listening knows where to find Kelly Van Nielsen. Kelly, can you tell us the best place for people to find you? And also, you have an autographed poetry bestsellers book bundle. Can you tell us about both of those things in our last 60 seconds?
Best place to find me as an anchor would be my website, which is www.kellyvannelson.com. I'm also on almost all of the social media platforms, so Google me on there. I've got and I'm on there a lot, so I will tend to reply to you. But the website's got all the links to the social platforms, so that's the best place. And there's links to book sales, and the books are available pretty much everywhere in the global kind of distribution.
Fantastic.
Come find me. I like the network.
Yes, you have a fabulous website.
Thank you. Thanks.
It is. Yes, absolutely. So, lovely ladies, we are completely out of time. Kelly Van Nielsen, thank you so much for gifting us your time today to have a fantastic chat. Kez, thank you as always, my gorgeous co-host, for coming on the show. This is our show this week. We will be back next week with another author and artist hour. Kelly, all the best. Thank you again. Please, audience, reach out, connect with Kelly Van Nielsen, buy her books, listen to her poetry, and help her change the world. Kez, thank you for sharing with us again. We will be back next week, and that's your lot for now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Bye.
I'm so grateful that you've come on the show today to tell us about this process, because we must tell these stories.